morning, everybody. I'd like to, Shannon, I'm just going to make sure you can hear me. My sound is on, my camera's on.
I can, John.
Okay, thanks very much. So with that, I will welcome everybody to the last meeting of 2021 for this council before the election. And I will start by asking for, I'll call the meeting to order at 9:30. And I'll ask for everybody to identify themselves to make sure they're here. So Councillor Rennie.
I'm present.
Okay, Councillor Klein.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, Councillor Klein. Councillor McQueen.
Yeah, I'm here. Good morning.
Good morning. Councillor Prestige.
I'm here.
Councillor Cush. Councillor Cush.
I'm here.
Okay, Councillor Govenlock.
Here.
And I'm here. So everyone from council is here. And Mr. Frank, you want to take us through who's on the call with us?
Your Worship, members of council, joining us today is Alicia Bourbeau, our Director of Corporate Services, Andre Bachand, our Director of Infrastructure, the Joan Sludwick, our Manager of Community and Planning, Nikita Genechev, our Communications Coordinator, and Scott Webb, our Manager of Protective Services, and Shannon Wharton, our Executive Assistant.
Okay, thanks very much, Frank. With that, I will ask for adoption of the agenda. Is there anything further from administration?
No, Your Worship.
Okay, so I'll ask for a motion to adopt the agenda. Councillor Govenlock.
How about some changes to the agenda?
Go ahead, Councillor Govenlock.
So let's begin with 6.2, retiring councillor presentation. Is that a delegation? Is that where that belongs?
Well, that's a presentation that I'll be making.
Doesn't indicate that, but if you think that's the right spot for it, I don't see it as a delegation, but maybe it is. So we seem to be missing the CAO contract. I've asked about that several times. There, you gave me an indication that it was coming forward. This being the last meeting for this council, why isn't it on the agenda?
It's not on the agenda, Councillor Govenlock.
Can we put it on the agenda?
If council will put something on the agenda under the procedural bylaw, you need 2/3 approval.
We need 2/3 approval now to put it on the agenda. Well, we'll put it on the agenda one way or the other, John. So I'm going to ask that the CAO contract be put on the agenda as the first motion there, and then we'll come back with a couple of others. So we're going to separate what changes to the agenda need to be decided upon by council by 2/3. So number one, I move that the agenda be modified to include discussions on the CAO contract, where it's at.
Okay. So motion on the floor to add the CAO contract to the agenda by Councillor Govenlock. And with that, I'll ask if it should be added to the agenda or not. And I'll go through the roll. Councillor Rennie.
In favor?
Councillor Klein.
Only in favor if it's in camera because it's a personnel issue.
Okay, Councillor McQueen.
Yeah, I'm in favor.
Councillor Prestige.
Opposed.
Okay, Councillor Cush.
Opposed.
Councillor Govenlock.
Definitely in favor.
Okay, I'm opposed. So 2/3, you need 5. Didn't get there. What's your next one, Councillor Govenlock?
We need 5. Oh, that's
Yes.
the map. That was the consequence of making the procedural bylaw change
Govenlock,
last
what
meeting.
is the next motion?
Well, the next motion will probably create the same split among council members with regards to dealing with the issues of firearms use in the municipality and the vaccination legal opinion. So I noted that both of those seem to be very consciously put into committee of the whole so the public doesn't get the information. Can somebody explain to me why they are in committee of the whole as opposed to being on the regular part of the agenda so the public has access to the legal opinion, which I believe they're entitled to, number one. And secondly, they have access to the discussion on those issues, number two.
Okay, I see Mr. Frank has his camera on, so I'll let Mr. Frank address this because I have a similar question. So go ahead, Mr. Frank.
Your worship, members of council, their legal opinions, which are privileged, and that's why they are in closed session. Should council want to, after they have a discussion in closed session, make them available in some form that would not breach the privileged information, then council could do.
I'd like to ask Mr. Frank, what part of those legal opinions is privileged? It is an opinion that affects the entire public, not any one specific member. So I don't see how it can possibly qualify under FOIP.
Your worship, members of council, they are your lawyer, which are all, any information obtained through your lawyer is considered privileged information.
Yeah, that's kind of like the CAO contract, isn't it, Gordon?
Okay, moving on, Councillor Govenlock. So they're already there. You've got your explanation as to what's on there. So can I get a motion to adopt the agenda? Councillor Klein?
Member Burrows, I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
Okay, thank you. Motion on the floor to adopt the agenda as presented. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, hearing none, I will call the question. Councillor Rennie?
In favor?
Councillor Klein?
Favor?
Councillor McQueen?
In favor?
Councillor Twisted?
In favor?
Councillor Cush?
In favor?
Councillor Govenlock?
I'm opposed.
And I'm in favor, so that is passed. So the next thing on the agenda is the approval, item 3.1, regular council minutes of September 21st, 2021. Excuse me, any errors or omissions on that one? And if nobody sees errors or omissions, I would accept a motion to adopt those minutes. Councillor McQueen.
Yeah, Mayor Burrows, I'll make a motion that the minutes of the September 21st meeting be adopted as circulated or accepted as circulated.
Okay. I'm sorry, your microphone cut out just a little bit there for me, and I want to make sure that we're doing everything, that everything can be heard. So could you say the motion again, Councillor McQueen?
Yeah, I'd just like to accept the minutes of September 21st as adopted as circulated.
Perfect. You came through good that time. Thank you very much. So motion on the floor from Councillor McQueen. Any discussion on that one? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Councillor Rennie.
In favor?
Councillor Klein.
Favor?
Councillor McQueen.
In favor?
Councillor Prestige.
In favor?
Councillor Cush. Councillor Cush.
In favor?
Councillor Govenlock.
On a point of order, Mr. Burrows, the minutes state that Mayor, our councillors Jim Rennie and Dale McQueen left the meeting at 2:39 before the meeting adjourned. So the question is, can those members vote on the minutes if they weren't there for the entire meeting?
They can. We actually looked into that particular thing, and they're actually required to vote on the minutes. So, Mr. Frank, you can address that if you'd like.
No, Your Worship, that's exactly it. They were present. They can vote on that matter.
They were present for what?
We're in the point of order is not accepted at this point, Councillor Govenlock. I've ruled on the point of order. There is no point of order. So what is your vote on the minutes?
So the point of order is, can council members who were absent for a portion of a meeting
Yes.
vote on the meeting minutes that capture the full meeting?
Councillor
I'm in the
Govenlock,
same situation. I wasn't there for the last part of the meeting, got cut off there, but I'd kind of like to know how council members can vote on the minutes if they weren't there to be part of the decision-making process. Can you explain that?
Councillor Govenlock, under the Municipal Government Act, you're required to vote on the motions, on the minutes. There's only a few areas that you can that you're not required to make a vote, and the minutes is not one of them. So your point of order, I've addressed it. It's in the Municipal Government Act. That might be the way that things were done in the past or that you're used to, but under the Municipal Government Act, I've had quite a few discussions on this one, so we're doing this correctly. So
can you state the section of the Municipal Government Act that you're quoting from?
I can look it up. I'm sure that we have it here. Mr. Frank, you want to, this is a rather large document to get through, but.
Your Worship, I'm looking up the section.
Thank you.
Mayor Burrows?
Yes.
In the essence of time, I'd retract my motion and abstain from voting if we can get moving on with this meeting.
Again, I've been through this. I know there's a reference in the Municipal Government Act to this, so we can, and I appreciate your retraction. If you wish to retract, I can't tell you to retract or not retract. It's up to you. But we're doing this correct.
I know. I'll retract my motion. Let someone else make it if they'd like, and I'll abstain from voting. It was only on one item that I was away from there anyway, so it doesn't matter to me one way or the other.
Again, Councillor McQueen, if you abstain from voting, then you're actually in contravention of the Municipal Government Act. Again, this is something that we've been dealing with for a little while, and the requirement to vote. Yeah, there's votes and extensions. I think is 183.2. Just give me a moment here, and I'll get the reference. Okay, so the requirement to vote in abstentions under section 183(1) of the Municipal Government Act. A councillor attending a council meeting must vote on a matter put in front of the meeting unless the councillor is required to or permitted to abstain from the voting under his or this under this or any other enactment. The councillor must ensure that each abstention and the reasons for abstaining are recorded in the minutes for the meeting. Abstention from voting on matters discussed at a public hearing. When a public hearing is proposed on a proposed bylaw or resolution is held, a councillor must abstain from voting on the bylaw or resolution if the councillor was absent from all of the public hearing, and may abstain from voting on the bylaw or the resolution if the councillor is only absent from a part of the public hearing. That's the only area that you can abstain from voting under the Municipal Government Act. So, Councillor McQueen, with that in mind, do you wish to retract your motion?
No, I'll leave it as it is then.
Okay. Thank you very much, Councillor McQueen. So there is still a motion on the floor. I've ruled on the point of order. Councillor Governor, what is your vote?
Well, I wasn't at the last portion of the meeting. I feel uncomfortable on voting on stuff that I wasn't present and have no personal knowledge about there. But I'll have to get a legal opinion on the 183.1 section. In the meantime, I'll vote in favor of the minutes, just to move things along. Thank you very much.
And I vote in favor, so that motion is carried. And I will park the MGA. All right, now we're into item 5.1. So that is bylaw 57421, 2021 land use amendment for Northeast 659, 12 west of the 5th meridian, 64.3 acres from residential district to rural recreation district. Sorry. Joan, did you want to take us through this again?
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. So Council gave first reading to Bylaw 57421 on their August 17th Council meeting. Then a public hearing was held on the September 21st Council meeting at 10 a.m. People were able to attend either virtually or in person at the office. The administration did provide an overview with respect to what the proposed rezoning entailed from country residential district, which allots for residential developments to occur on the property, to a rural recreational district, which would allow or accommodate the current owner to do his proposal of 5 to 10 mini cabins for recreational purpose. Administration read one letter of support that was received that was not included in the letters that were attached for Council's review. There were 3 individuals that were in attendance, 1 in person and 2 were on electronically. 1 did speak in favor, 1 voiced concern with respect to keeping the public in proximity to the parcel and hiking trails that generally people travel further than what the parcel may accommodate. The adjacent landowner that is probably the most impacted and is surrounded totally by the proposed or the parcel had sent a letter in. Had also Mr. Hiltz had indicated in his presentation, who's the applicant, that they were now in favor of the proposal or proposed rezoning, as he had made arrangements with them to accommodate them on some of their concerns that they had identified. They did have some difficulty in trying to express that at the meeting. However, Shannon Wharton, our executive assistant, had received an email from them during the public hearing, confirming what Mr. Hiltz had indicated. So attached for Council are the various schedules that were included at the public hearing, if they want to further review that. Also attached for Council consideration for second and third reading under Schedule is Bylaw 57421, which would amend Woodlands County Land Use Bylaw rezoning map on part of Northeast 6 5912 west of the 5th for 64 acres from country residential district to rural recreational district. As well, it should be noted that if council does not provide a decision today on this bylaw, that we would have to rehold a public hearing once the new council's been established. So essentially start the process over so that the new council could see the evidence that was presented at the last public hearing. So just looking for council to consider the bylaw for second and third reading.
Thanks very much, Joan. With that, I'll recognize Councillor Rennie. You've had your hand up. Go ahead, Councillor Rennie.
Thanks, Mayor Burrows. I just wanted to proceed with, excuse me, the following motion that council gives second reading to bylaw 57421, amending Woodlands County Land Use Bylaw on Northeast 65912 west of the 5th M from country residential district to rural recreational district.
Okay, thanks very much, Councillor Rennie. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, I don't see anyone, so I'm going to go ahead and call the question. Councillor Rennie?
In favor?
Councillor Klein?
In favor?
Mr. Burrows, you're rushing things.
Yeah. Councillor Govenlock?
My hand was up.
Your hand has been up the entire time. You never took it down, so your hand actually went down. So
you're a pretty good liar, John. That's not the case. I just put my hand back up again. It was down.
Everything's got to be a problem. So we're on to the vote here. Councillor,
we have a motion.
Councillor Klein have indicated. Councillor McQueen?
In favor.
Councillor Prestige?
In favor.
Councillor Cush?
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock?
At this stage, I will be opposed. There will be a third reading, and I certainly intend to speak before the third reading gets passed. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Govenlock. I vote in favor, so second reading is passed. Anyone wish to give a motion for third reading? Councillor Govenlock, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, my hand is up so that I can speak to the motion and the expected changes and consequential impact that proceeding with this particular change has on residents who've invested in Woodlands County and actually live in Woodlands County. So it's extremely important that council take this matter seriously. But I'll move so that the discussion can move forward. I will move that council give third and final reading to bylaw 57421, amending Woodlands County Land Use Bylaw on part of the northeast of 65912 west of the 5th. There from country residential to rural recreational district. And I would like to speak to that motion.
Go ahead, Councillor Govenlock.
So even though I have moved the third reading of this particular motion, I'm totally opposed to proceeding with approval of the expectations of the applicant. When residents who are longtime residents live in the area with a certain land planning program before them, they have made decisions and developed their property in compliance with those expectations. That entire area was zoned quite a number of years ago to country residential. And consequently, people expect to have the privacy and the comfort or enjoyment that is associated with living in a country residential area. To turn it into a commercial area totally turns upside down those people's lives and the investment that they have made. And it's extremely disappointing when somebody who lives outside of the municipality can purchase a parcel of land and proceed with a commercial venture that impacts not only adjacent residential property owners, but the entire community in which that happens. And when we had the public hearing process 2 weeks ago, we heard from a number of those residents who expressed the same concerns that I'm reiterating on their behalf to protect the investment those people have made. It's extremely important we respect the rights of landowners, residences that live and are impacted by these kinds of things. I'm very much opposed to proceeding.
Okay. So with the motion on the floor, is there anyone else that wishes to speak for or against the motion? I don't see anyone, so I'm going to call the question. Councillor Rennie.
In favor?
Councillor Klein.
Favor.
Councillor McQueen.
Just one question, Mayor Burrows, and I'm sorry for, I tried to get my hand up there quicker, but.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
No, it's okay, it's okay. When we had this discussion, as Councillor Govenlock said, I know there was some landowners that had some concerns, and I was just curious if anyone knows if Mr. Hiltz had actually talked to the rest of those landowners, and if they were okay with this. I guess that's my biggest concern is I can kind of see where Ron's coming from. If you've got an area that's settled out as residential and next thing you have something in like that, and that's all I'm worried about. If the majority of those folks are okay with this, then I'm okay with this motion too.
Okay, Mr. Frank, you've indicated.
Yeah,
go ahead,
Your
Mr. Frank.
Worship, unfortunately, the information that is presented at the public hearing is only the information that council may consider, so.
Okay, so.
That's not the case.
Councillor, I'm sorry, Councillor McQueen, then what was your vote on this?
Sorry, so since it's in the center of that and it's only 60 acres out of the whole quarter and it looks like it's surrounded by bush and everything else, I think I'll vote in favor of it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor McQueen. Councillor Prestige.
I'm in favor.
Okay, I heard in favor from Councillor Prestige. Councillor Cush.
In favor.
Okay, I heard in favor from Councillor Cush. And Councillor Govenlock.
So again, we should be dealing with a point of order when it comes to considering the information available. The facts are that on the record, the only information that was supposed to be recognized were the written submissions and any verbal submissions that were there. Somebody failed to take note that the one verbal that was there that was in support was in Lac-Saint-Anne. Had nothing to do with Woodlands County. I've had personal discussions with the affected landowners there, and so that particular perspective is the perspective that I tried to put forward on behalf of those residents. This is disappointing when the residents of Woodlands County are less important than the business aspirations of outside communities. I'm opposed.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Govenlock, and I'm in favor, so that third reading is passed. And we are on to, now we have a delegation at 11. I'm late here, so they were supposed to be here at 9:45, so we're going to skip ahead to item 6.1, which is the Whitecourt Trailblazers presentation. Mr. Frank.
Your worship, members of council, joining us today is Cindy Brooks with the Trailblazers, as well as Mr. Greg Anderson, who may show up on your screen as Heather, but that is Mr. Anderson there.
Okay, welcome to the meeting. So you have a delegation here, of course, and you want to give us a presentation on the emergency recovery, the emergency recovery equipment proposal. So I'm, first of all, obviously we we work well together with the Trailblazers and the amount of trails and the systems and the winter recreation area that's in here. And I'm sure that council wants to thank you for your work on the Whitecourt Trailblazers and maintaining those trail systems, making us a hub for that kind of activity. So thanks, and I'm going to hand the floor over to you for your presentation.
Okay, good morning, folks. I'm with Greg Anderson. He is representing the Trailblazers with this presentation as well. The presentation, first off, I'll just say I apologize ahead of time if I get kicked out of Zoom or out of Teams. I tend to lose connection quite easily, so Greg will pick me up and I'll join back in. This presentation is proposing the purchase of rescue equipment that's all season and all terrain, snow, water, rock, trail, meaning amphibious. The proposed emergency rescue vehicle would enhance the emergency rescue services in our community, backcountry, and could also be used by communities in our region. The idea would be to fundraise for this equipment through the Whitecourt Trailblazers and then donate the funds to purchase the equipment to the town of Whitecourt. The Whitecourt Fire Department would store the vehicle on their premises for easy access in the event of an emergency rescue situation. We would purchase the Canadian-made amphibious vehicle from a supplier in Valley View, Low Impact Inc., and purchase a custom-made trailer from a local dealer for the purposes of the storage and transportation to an accident scene. It'd be stocked with emergency supplies and would provide the ability to transport emergency crews and have access to supplies to care for injured individuals or an individual. The town of Whitecourt would add this equipment to their fleet of emergency equipment and ensure and maintain the vehicle as required. This is just my quick presentation rundown. I'll tell you my story. I was the accident victim. And then we'll have a discussion about the debrief about the accident from the emergency groups. And then we formed a committee after we had the debrief. And then Greg will speak to the particulars of the fat truck maintenance and why this particular vehicle. I'll also speak to the fundraising and how that may look. And then I'll do the closing remarks. So, it was December 26, 2020, and it was a beautiful day. We were heading out towards the Summit Cabin on the south side, and we did go. We left at about 10 in the morning. It was about 20 below when we did go, which is very normal temperature for us. I mean, if you wait for the nice days, you'll never get out. But it was a beautiful day, so we went out and we rode all day, had a really great day. We were heading home. I can say that I was distracted. I had many things going on in my personal life. I believe I was looking back, and before I knew it, I did swerve off to the side and I struck a tree. So I would like to say that my ability is fairly good. I've been riding my whole life. We put on many kilometers in a year. Typically, I have my son behind me, but I just happened to switch sleds with my husband, and the sled that I was riding, I had rode the year before, so I was very familiar with it. So, accidents happen, and I was in the backcountry, and I was 10 kilometers from town, and we did happen to have cell service. I had the accident. I struck the tree. I flew 20 feet and I struck another tree. We don't know if the handlebars injured my leg or I was struck by the tree, and obviously I was in dire need of assistance. So what happened was I did break my femur and I also broke my knee. What happened was the crew that I was with 6 other individuals, and we did all the things that we needed to do to secure my my safety. They put a splint on. We had a fire. We immediately called 911, and luckily we did have the service, and they dispatched the fire department, which was the rescue crew, and the RCMP, and as well as the ambulance crew. So the ambulance gal, I don't know if you guys know, but they are not they drive into a scene and they aren't mandated to come and rescue people. She took it upon herself to come and see how I was, and everything was good. Luckily, I was able to have some medication, some drugs to get me through. So then they were called, the fire department was called, and they came out. There was, I think there was 4 guys came out in an Argo, and when they got there, they had to be transported through, pardon me, sorry. They were transported through with the Argo, and then they did attempt to rescue me out. They did put me on a stretcher. The complication is it's an Argo, so you're going 2 to 3 kilometers an hour. This was 4 o'clock in the afternoon that I had my accident, and by the time they got there, it was 8 o'clock. So there's a major time frame. I was laying in the snow for over 5 hours, and the RCMP, they were dispatched to a location and they couldn't even find us. So that was unfortunate. First off, I want to thank the emergency crews. Without them, I wouldn't be here. They did everything that they possibly could, and I'll never talk ill of the emergency crews and the equipment that we have. But, after the accident, we did have a debrief, and we all got together and discussed, how can we make a rescue like this easier on the victims and the people that are with them, as well as the crew that come out. So, anytime you have a backcountry rescue, it doesn't matter if it's 1 kilometer, 10 kilometers, you still have to get that person out safely. So the groups that we met with the RCMP, the ambulance, and the fire department, and I think some really good things did come out of it. We are discussing how can we make rescues better or enhance them, and then we did form a committee. So the committee that we formed, did go out and they did start researching the equipment that, would make a rescue easier for everybody, and making sure that we get the people out. That's really important. There was different equipments that were tried and looked at, and we did, the one that we did choose was the fat truck. The fat truck is Canadian made, and I'll let Greg speak to the particulars of that with the fat truck, the maintenance, and why this vehicle.
Thank you, Cindy. Greg, you still there? There you are. Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, good morning, Mayor Burrows and Council. Good morning, Cindy. Yes, so we did form a committee within the Whitecourt Trailblazers. A lot of research was done in regards to the piece of equipment that we've chosen. We looked at, some possibilities of modifying an Argo. We looked at some other tracked pieces of equipment that low impact sells, similar to a Nodwell. We also looked at a UTV 6x6 with tracks. When we compared all of the pieces of equipment and the research that I've conducted, these pieces of equipment are out there in different areas in emergency services. These seem to be a very capable apparatus, just all around and in general. And given the trail systems that we run, we feel that this would be the best, most safe apparatus when conducting any type of emergency. And with this piece of equipment, it's fully enclosed. It's a heated cab. Actually, I did send a document to Mrs. Wharton. It is titled Fat Truck Info and Photos. That's probably the best one that we could utilize at this point in time. It's just easy to see, and it's got photos of the apparatus. So this apparatus is Canadian made. It's built in Quebec. The dealer that we have been dealing with, which so far have been very professional and easy to deal with. So as you'll see in the list below, it does have a Tier 4 final engine. So that engine is built by Caterpillar. It's the same engine that Caterpillar uses in their skid steers. Everything is certified through Canadian regulation. Large doors, as it says, excellent 360-degree visibility. It's got a backup camera. It's fully lit, headlights, spot lamps on the top, and obviously if we want more, we can add more. One of our members of the committee did go out and they actually drove this apparatus and said it was extremely easy to operate. It's a joystick control. So the operator sits in the middle of the unit and runs it with a single joystick, kind of like a video game. After 1 second of use, of non-use, the truck actually deactivates and automatically locks the gears. The tire inflation system can be utilized while traveling down the trail. You can adjust the tires for different terrain. Maintenance-wise, it's hydrostatic drive instead of like an Argo, which uses chains. This one is a hydrostatic. It's got hydraulic motors. Then it goes into Kevlar belting system. Environmentally, this apparatus does have a enclosed belly, so none of, like if there happens to be an oil spill or a leak or anything like that, it stays within the vehicle and the bilge system that it uses. There's tons of options that can be had with this. Yes, it is an expensive apparatus, but when we looked at some of our other options out there, like a UTV, by the time we had the UTV set up with tracks, 6x6, the proper bed in the back of the UTV to handle stretchers, we still did not have a fully enclosed heated cab for the patient and emergency services personnel. This fat truck, we can put multiple stretchers into, depending on the brackets and so on and so forth that we decide to go with. And as indicated, it is fully enclosed, heated. The paramedics or EMTs are with the patient at all times and can provide proper care. With the larger tires, it's considerably softer ride. And I think Cindy could probably speak to the ride that she partook in with the Argo. You know, this is a very capable machine. It, you know, some of the trails that we have throughout the trail system, there's some fairly steep inclines. We felt that the UTV 6x6, as well as any of the Argo type equipment, we would have to find ways around some of those hills. They just would not make it. And as well, sometimes we get a fair amount of snow. This apparatus is very capable in the deeper snow. So based on discussions with the dealer, it does come with a 1-year warranty, and the Caterpillar engine has a 2-year warranty. All repairs can be done either at the Valley View facility, or they can be done by any journeyman heavy-duty technician, as this is a Caterpillar engine with hydrostatic drive. So regular service and maintenance could be done locally. If the apparatus happens to fail out in the bush or on the trail, they have a fat truck that is set up to come out on site and conduct the repairs on this apparatus. Obviously, we'll be looking at what we're looking for is a letter of support to move forward with this project. As Cindy has indicated, we will be fundraising for this project. And obviously we'll be looking at and dealing with some of the other members of our committee who are EMS, and properly build this apparatus so that it works for everybody and hopefully most emergency situations. Barring any questions, I think I think that's about all I can add.
One thing I wanted to add is, the concept or the idea that, stars can come in and rescue anybody anywhere. We found out that that is actually not that is not the case. So you have to have a registered area, and the weather has to be perfect, and all those other factors come into play. So, when you are out there, like I said, it doesn't matter if it's a kilometer, 10 kilometers, or 20 kilometers, you still have to get that person out. And so what happened to me was the fire department did get me out. They got me to the ambulance. The ambulance then took me to the airport, and I flew out on a fixed wing. Stars did come to pick me up, but because there was such a large delay, a lengthy delay, they had to go in and rescue somebody else. So just keep that in mind too, that, using all of the emergency equipment we have and what the province has, the idea is you have to get everybody out. So I'll just speak to the fundraising. What we're looking for, like Greg said, was that we're looking for a letter of support, and we're also looking for grant opportunities. So if we could work with Woodlands County, help us to those grants, or getting us some just some support on that. That's where we want to go. We're going to work on a business plan regarding fundraising. How will that look? Well, there'll be lots of advertising and sponsorship opportunities. We will be approaching the oil field and the forestry and other municipalities. What we would like to do is make this more of a regional project. It would, enhance. It would be including Edson, Barhead, Westlock, Lac St. Anne area, Fox Creek, Swan Hills, Valley View. So I don't know how that exactly looks in terms of, the business plan and how you do those things, but we will be working with the town of Whitecourt for that and come up with a plan for that. In closing, obviously we want to thank everybody for having this opportunity to present to you guys, and what we do want is just to have the support at this point, and we'll go forward. And our end date, we would like to have the opportunity to have this equipment in the field for May to June next year. So it is almost 2 years coming up here as an anniversary, so we are wanting to get on with this, and we just look for that support today.
Thanks very much, Cindy, for that presentation. And I already got a question up by Councillor Klein here, so I'm going to go ahead and recognize Councillor Klein. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor Rose, and thank you, folks, for being here to do this. Being involved with our local fire department here for 30-some years, we've saw something similar to this a few years ago because we're going out rescuing the ATVs and motocross bikes up in the sandhills here quite numerously during the summer months. One thing we found, we went and got a side by side, and there again went out and did fundraising. So congratulations on that. I think you have to have industry and the people using it to pay for this. One of my concerns is with this big piece of equipment. We found, but there again, we're confined to small trails and where these guys are operating. This thing is beautiful on a big wide trail, but what is in your plans for those areas where you cannot get to? You're still going to need to go in with a skidoo or sometimes like we've had to walk in and carry people out half a mile. So you have to have those contingencies in your plan. So has that been done already?
I believe I can speak to that, Mayor Burrows, Council. This apparatus, the people that went and took it for test drive, and actually this same apparatus is being used quite a bit in industry. It is very capable with the winch systems and the protective bumpers. It can go through quite a bit of bush. It is very capable. Obviously, you have to be aware that, you know, any trees or whatever, if they poke the tires, this does have an onboard compressor system that, in speaking with the gentleman at Low Impact in Valley View, they actually had a 3-inch hole through the tire, and the compressor system was still able to keep up, and the tires can be fixed locally through, you know, vulcanizing and so on and so forth. But with the protective bumpers, which we definitely would be getting, it is quite capable, and, you know, can, if need be, can push over any shrubs or anything like that. And it is capable of going through deep snow, and it is fully amphibious.
So the last question, I guess, then is, and one of you mentioned you're looking to go regional. Just in the last few months, I was watching a program on TV, and it was based on firefighting services based out of Slave Lake and Yellowhead County. Yellowhead County has something very similar to this already. Have you seen it, or have you been able to have discussions with them as to how they saw the benefit of this? And that's the only question I got. Thank you.
Go ahead.
Based on the research that I've collected, obviously we have not gone out as a committee with respect to going and visiting other emergency services that have this equipment. I did do some reading in regards to the apparatus that Yellowhead has. Excuse me. And they've rated it very high. It's I mean, obviously one piece of equipment is not going to be 100% in all situations. Our focus with the Whitecourt Trailblazers, we've actually also had some of the members from the Whitecourt ATV Club sit in at some of our meetings, and as indicated, we're obviously not going to be able to purchase a piece of equipment that's going to be able to do 100% of everything. It's a very high unlikelihood that you're going to find that piece of apparatus. What we're trying to do is find something that is going to benefit overall, something that's going to benefit the people that come to visit and ride our trails, whether it be snowmobile, ATV, dirt bike, and what can we do to best provide that emergency service in the event that somebody gets injured. And with all the research, we just found that this would be the best piece of equipment to try and meet all of those little niches. Obviously, emergency situations are fluid and dynamic and can change in a heartbeat, and with different terrain and different weather and so on and so forth. We just found that this one here seemed to fit the bill the best for the protection of any of our visiting public and ease of operation.
Okay, thanks very much. Any other questions on the presentation? Councillor Klein, go ahead. Councillor Klein, you're muted still.
Sorry about that. It says we should be giving them a letter accepted for information, but they're looking for a letter of support. Is there a difference in what we're trying to do here?
I was going to ask that as a clarification point. So with the first of all, with any funding requests or anything like that, I would suggest that that those get done prior to our budget deliberation. So I guess that would be, and Mr. Frank, you can give the dates for when the budget discussions are going to start under the new council. And that way, any commitments that are on there are considered ahead of time if you're looking to get this thing rolling before the spring or around the spring. So that would be a recommendation. And the second part, I think, is the clarification. So, Mr. Frank, did you want to weigh in on that?
Yeah, Your Worship, members of council, the letter originally indicated a letter presentation, and then there were some questions around whether they wanted funding, and so we brought them as a delegation to do that clarification. Now, once you know that clarification, you can change that motion if council believes that they want to support this application going forward for grant funding.
Okay, so that really goes back to our delegation. Then, are you requesting both a letter of support so you can do fundraising through grant applications and requesting funds from Woodlands that we can consider it in the budget, or just one or the other? Just let us know what you'd like.
I guess at this point, we're looking for a lot of support. We don't have the funding model yet. So if you would allow us to come back and present that funding model or the business plan, we would be more than happy to do that. And I might want to do that anyways with the new council. So I guess at this point, Greg, am I correct in saying that we are looking for a letter of support to move forward with fundraising and research of I guess I kind of messed that up.
So I think what you'd be asking for is a letter of support in principle for grant applications.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, if I may add, the plan through the committee was that we would do the fundraising and purchase this piece of equipment. The discussion that has been had was that the apparatus would be maintained, operated by the Whitecourt Fire Department. Reason for that, they have full-time firefighters, central location. I know there have been agreements between the county and the Whitecourt Fire Department in regards to equipment, the use of equipment. I've actually had discussions with Scott Webb in regards to this apparatus, mutual training. Like, this doesn't have to be solely operated by the Whitecourt Fire Department. It would just be a place to hold it. If county fire departments join together and we're able to train with this apparatus, then this apparatus could be deployed by whichever fire department needs it, so that it can be utilized for any type of emergencies. But the purchase of the equipment was to be made by the Whitecourt Trailblazers, doing all the fundraising. What we're asking for, if there are grants available, that we might be able to work together, whether it be with the town or the counties, would we be able to get assistance in maybe accessing some of those grants? But right now, sorry, go ahead.
I'm gonna just jump ahead here then and say what you're asking for is a letter of support in principle for grant applications. When we say in principle, basically that means the absence of funding from the municipality. So we'll work with you to access funding, access grants, you know, those kind of things. That's what the in principle part means. If there's a requirement to or a request from the club to come back for funding directly from the municipality, that's a different request. So if I'm getting your proposal properly, you're looking for a letter of support in principle for the grant applications. You may end up coming back for a letter at some point, or sorry, some funding from us. And if you do that, I would just suggest that you get that in prior to our budget discussions for 2022. So
absolutely.
Okay, so just to clear that up. So Councillor Klein, you got your hand up again. Do you want to make a motion?
Oh, yes, sir. I will be making that motion. I know what these guys are going through. Been out there having rescued numerous people that do idiotic things. So thanks for your work, ladies and gentlemen, and we'll look forward to your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Klein. So does someone wish to make a motion that we accept the Whitecourt Trailblazers Emergency Recovery Equipment proposal presentation and write a letter of support in principle for grant applications?
Mayor Burrows, I thought that.
Sorry?
I thought I just did that.
Okay, I didn't. I want to get the wording down, so it's got to something like that. Okay, so Councillor Klein, that was your motion then. Council accepts the Whitecourt Trailblazer Emergency Recovery Equipment Proposal presentation for information and write a letter of support in principle for grant applications, correct?
I couldn't have worded it any better. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Thanks, Councillor Klein. I'll accept that motion. And with that, any discussion on the motion? I don't see it. And Councillor Rennie already has his mic open. He's anxious to vote, I think. So go ahead, Councillor Rennie. I'll call the question.
I vote in favor. I vote in favor.
Okay, in favor. Thank you, Councillor Klein.
In favor.
Councillor McQueen.
In favor.
Councillor Prestige.
In favor.
Councillor Cush.
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock.
In favor.
And I vote in favor. So there you are. You'll have your letter of support. And thank you very much for your presentation and your time. And thanks for all the. I know what it's like being part of some of these nonprofits. You're working a lot, and people don't see it behind the scenes to get those trail systems in the shape that they are. So thanks again very much for your contribution to that awesome recreation that we have access to in Woodlands.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay, with that, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on to item 6.2 under, since we're on that portion already, and we have one member that has to leave early. And I wanted to make sure that we got this, while everybody was here. So first of all, I want to acknowledge that we have a couple of councillors here that are not running again. They're retiring. So Councillor Rennie, and you've got 20 years, and Councillor McQueen for 14 years of dedicated service to Woodlands County and its residents. And I just wanted to tell you that on behalf of council, I wanted to express my gratitude for your leadership over the past 2 decades. Of being a councillor is certainly not easy, but the two of you took your duties with passion and dedication and sacrifice for the community and its 4,700 residents. I want to start off by naming a couple of your accomplishments as Woodlands County Council. Councillor Rennie, you spent much of your time projects like the Allen and Jean Miller Center with the town of Whitecourt and working with the Alexis First Nation on the Eagle River Casino will forever stand as examples of your ability to collaborate with others and achieve great things, not to mention your tireless work connecting with MLAs and provincial ministers championing Woodlands County and the economic opportunities in the region, where you're pretty much the poster child for collaboration. Even with all that, you were also never forgotten about your constituents and made time available for them at every party in the park and all the events that you attended on behalf of Woodlands County. Some of the other achievements with your colleagues include the East and West Mountain Road, Hard Luck Canyon, Blue Ridge Library, the Blue Ridge Rec Area, cold mixes for the country residential subdivision, and the many tourism and economic development initiatives that sprouted from your ideas. Councillor McQueen, you've always stood up for the hardworking farmers in the county, and you've stood by them through 2 agricultural disasters. As your advocacy in the Agricultural Services Board helping about programs like the VSI, which ensured livestock raising and crop production remains healthy in our area. Your forward thinking has made a great deal of change with developments in the division and the county as a whole. For example, promoting the recycle and waste management in Woodlands County with care and helping introduce the BARC system to the county. And I was around when that was up and running, and it's a fantastic system. So big or small, you've never minced your words, and you've made sure that residents' voices were always heard. Early morning conversations would be the norm as you look for solutions to their road concerns or other questions. Your initiative and commitment will have a lasting impact on the community, whether it's physically through projects like new fire apparatus in Goose Lake or through intangible ways like the relationships you've nurtured on behalf of the county for years to come. Those are only a few of the many achievements during your tenure, and there's so much more that the 2 of you will be remembered for. And while you may not be returning, hopefully we'll still see you around to provide your wisdom and experience to the community in its future. Once again, thank you on behalf of Woodlands County Council for all your contributions, and we wish you the best in your next endeavors. And we will also be having a presentation, and we'd like to get everybody together for photos as well. Councillor Rennie, go ahead.
And I had a few words that I wanted to say, mostly in gratitude to a few things that I had the pleasure of encountering. So if I can have the floor for a minute or two, please, Mayor Burrows. Thank you for the kind words. First, I wanted to just mention a few different groups that I had a chance to work with that I really am appreciative of. The first are the councillors, and there's a lot of councillors over the past couple decades. And one in particular, a situation where Hank Renkema, who probably only a few of our present councillors will remember, he and I went up to Manning. That was the furthest north I'd ever been at that point in my life. And we went to a conference in a scuzzy little hotel we had to stay in, and it was so old, the door wouldn't open right. So here's Hank in his fancy blue jeans that he would wear out to conferences and his cowboy boots, and he decides he's going to go through the window. And I didn't know Hank very well at this time. He's kind of a sour guy until you get to know him. Then he's just the easiest going guy in the world. So he gets halfway through the window and he gets stuck, and he can't go backwards and he can't go forwards, and he's stuck by his cowboy boots in the windowsill. And all I could do was laugh. And then I went and helped him, and we got that door open. But you know, there's situations like that. I remember another time, all of council after a conference went back to Dale McQueen's room, and I sat down in a chair, and the chair exploded into about 30 pieces. And there's 7 members of council, probably all of us seeing a little bit double, trying to put that chair back together. But teamwork prevailed, and we did get it put back together. I remember another supper where we're talking about Sylvia's arm wrestling championships, and I was just like, well, how good are you, Sylvia? So right at the table in this restaurant, here's myself getting absolutely annihilated by Sylvia in an arm wrestling contest, and just so much fun. Some of the projects we got to work on, I remember the Reeve at the time, Doug Borg, telling me when I wanted to build the world's largest wagon wheel in Port Assiniboine, he said, if you can convince the people, you can build it. Well, together we convinced the people, and that is an icon, and we went on to work with Travel Alberta and make that a tourist destination in a very small area that so rich with so much history. We had a lot of fun with our neighbors as well. Party in the Park, I'll tell you, one of the great memories I have of it is mostly we were bringing in bands that were famous a long time ago, but we brought in one band that was famous, it was just up and coming. And the singer in true rock star fashion, he got off the airplane and was picked up by our staff. We'd hired actually a local company, Trent Goudreau. His bus service was picking up the band, and the rock star was in such rough shape. All he had on was a torn t-shirt and shorts. No shoes, no socks, no nothing, no bag, nothing else. And it was left over from the concert he did the night before somewhere else on the other side of Canada. So here we had to have Trent go and pick him up, take him to Walmart to buy him a toothbrush and toothpaste and a hairbrush and a change of clothes. And I remember that Mayor Chichak and I watching as he got on stage, and we're like he just woke up 5 minutes ago and he can barely stand. And he took a big drink off a bottle of wine, and probably was the best performance we ever had at Party in the Park. So what a great memory. And then as a region, Northern Alberta elected leaders, I've had a lot of fun with that group, and I'm going to stay on just as a volunteer to help them out as they transition. And then Grand Alberta Economic Region, that was one of 10 municipalities we were part of that put on a great opportunity. And we did things, first off, we had like a super staff. And like, the universe was rigged in our favor to pull off some great things. So we worked on supporting temporary foreign workers. We brought in some different tourism initiatives. We really rallied the province for all kinds of funding for projects that we did and were successful. And it was a lot of fun. I remember working with the manager, and we wanted to build billboards, and we got a grant to put billboards throughout the region, and then we'd all share and put our different events on it in the different regions. And I remember me arguing with the manager, Tammy, saying that, well, let's just put them up and we can beg for forgiveness afterwards. We're government. Why do we need a permit? Luckily, we listened to her and we got the permits first, but the project did go ahead, not as speedy as I thought it should. But another point that I really wanted to make was how well the majority of my time on council, we had the same MLA and the same MP, George Vanderberg and Rob Merrifield. And there was not an event where we didn't have two mayors, MLA and MP, all working together. And when we went to our respective levels of government to ask for assistance, we always got it. And I really appreciated their hard work and commitment. And I think they are great role models for future MLAs and MPs. And the last thing that I wanted to comment on was a situation that really made me proud in so many ways. So I was on a vacation in Arizona. I got a call in the middle of the night, like truly the middle of the night, from our CA, Luc Mercier. The situation on the Athabasca River had changed overnight. The waters were rising rapidly as it was a spring thaw, and the ice was changing the way that it was laying. And so by sunrise, I was at the airport, and by that afternoon, I was in a helicopter with Luke flying over the top of the residence and looking at the emergency situation that we had. And that's not the important part of the story. The part that really got to me was the next day knowing that our staff were out in a canoe with bags of dog food and cat food, because some of the people that were evacuated didn't have time to go out and rescue their pets. So we went in, our staff went in, and they made sure that the pets were safe and they reported back to the residents. And that's just an example of many, many hundreds of examples that I can think of that can make me very, very proud to be a part of Woodlands County. So thank you all for the teamwork, and for the people in the past, the teamwork, and to our staff. I think we've all did a good job looking after our residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Rennie. And Councillor McQueen, I see your hand is up as well. I'll give you the floor again. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm going to keep it short. I'm not going to go on as long as Jim did, but I kind of echo everything that he said too. And there's probably a lot of the stories that went on in the city that we can't talk about, because that was a whole different time back in those days. But I got to say, Jim and I were reminiscing just some of the good things too, or like the RAP program, where we got young kids in the community to get into different apprenticeships and whatnot. Now some of them, they're not kids anymore. They're growing up and they have their own kids, and it's kind of nice to see that. I echo the same thing with having George and Rob on for, looking after things in this area for years. I've never seen anyone who was more positive thinking than I think Rob Merrifield. It didn't matter how bad things were or how bad the situation was. He always had a good word to say. He'd always say, we're so lucky to be in this province. And I agree. And I remember George saying to me, he says, you don't know how lucky we are here. Our kids don't have to travel across Canada to find a job. They can find something here in this province. They don't have to go a long ways from home. They're close to any kind of work. They only have to leave if they have to. And that made me feel good about that too. and the staff, I put a thing in the paper, just a little blurb in the Express this time, just to say thanks to everybody, but there's still a pile of people you forget. But the staff has just been great over the years. I don't know how you folks do that in there. Some of the stuff you have to do, and always do it with a smile. And it's been much appreciated. It's like a family. We went through things. One thing that bothered me is I read an article in the paper the other day where they said, well, this council is, kind of run this place in the ground and it's in bad shape, and then we'll ever see what's going to happen. And I don't believe none of that for a minute. I think the most constructive thing that this council, this last term, has done was the 5-year plan with the tax, the way we have things set up. And I think, honestly, you guys that are carrying on, you've got it made. You're going to get it right. It's come together. That was a great plan, I think. We can see it already in the numbers that are showing up. And I think it's going to come around. We had a bad kick there with a lot of these oil companies backing out on us. But I think in the long run, it looks good for the county. I think it's going to come around, and you'll do just fine there. So thanks to all the previous counselors I've worked with, and with you guys there right now. And I appreciate all the help you've given me over the years here too. So thanks again, and we'll keep in touch. We'll gab to you too.
Thanks, Councillor McQueen. So with that, we will, and again, thanks both of you for your commitment. So with that, we'll move on to item 5.2, and that is our borrowing bylaw 575-21 operating line of credit. And Alicia, you want to take us through that one?
Certainly. Thank you, Mayor Burrows, members of council. We have before you borrowing bylaw 575-21. This is not a new ask. This is something that is already in place for the municipality. But in our current agreement that we signed with Alberta Treasury Branches, or ATB, it is required that as part of that agreement that annually we come before council to update on the borrowing bylaw, just to ensure that everyone is aware that there is a $10 million line of credit and where it is sitting as far as having been drawn on. I have reported to council a couple of times earlier in the year when we have had to access the line of credit, but even so, I provided for you as the attachments is a snapshot of our entire transactions that did go through the line of credit in 2021, and assurance that as you depart from your terms of council this year, that the line of credit is completely intact and there is no borrowing gone against it. So what administration is looking for today is 3 readings on this bylaw so that we can have this signed off and returned to Alberta Treasury Branches, so we are meeting all of the covenants of our agreement with them. Is there any questions?
I have one quick question for you, Alicia, just on, and I think Councillor McQueen touched on it really quickly about the economic recovery plan and some of the things that we're doing. So how long were we in that line of credit this year?
I believe it was from May 17th to June 1st.
Okay, so we're talking about 15 days in the line of credit.
Correct.
So we're not borrowing much for very long. So that's great news. Okay. Any questions from council to Alicia on this one? And if there aren't any, I will accept a motion for first reading. Councillor Klein.
Mayor Burrows.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Prestige, go ahead.
I would just like to make a comment and thank Alicia for the great work that she has done on this recovery. It's incredible how we come back from where we were. So thank you, you and your staff.
I'll pass that on. Thank you very much.
I think I heard a hear from Councillor Klein as well. So, and yes, absolutely. I know you've worked very, very hard on this. So, and there's more good news to come yet in this agenda that I think people are going to be happy about. So, first motion or first reading, Councillor Prestige, your mic is still on.
Yeah, I'll make the first motion that council give first reading to bylaw 575/21.
Okay, very good. Motion approved to give first reading to the bylaw. Any discussion on the motion? Don't see any hands up, anything, so we will go ahead and call the question. In favor or opposed? Councillor Rennie?
In favor?
Councillor Klein?
Favor.
Councillor McQueen?
In favor?
Councillor Prestige?
In favor.
Councillor Cush?
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock?
In favor.
And I vote in favor. So first reading is passed. Anyone wish to go to second reading? I saw Councillor Cush, you were trying to put your hand up there earlier.
Yeah, I'll make the motion that council give second reading to bylaw 575/21.
Thank you, Councillor Cush. Motion on the floor from Councillor Cush. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Councillor Rennie?
In favor?
Councillor Klein?
Favor.
Councillor McQueen?
In favor?
Thanks, Councillor McQueen. Councillor Prestige?
In favor.
Councillor Cush?
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock?
Favor.
And I vote in favor. Okay, motion to proceed to third and final reading. Councillor Klein?
Mayor Burrows, I make a motion that council proceed to third and final reading of bylaw 575/21.
Thank you, Councillor Klein. Motion on the floor from Councillor Klein. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Councillor Rennie?
In favor?
Klein?
Favor.
Councillor McQueen?
In favor?
Councillor Prestige?
In favor.
Councillor Cush?
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. So we're now on to who wants to make the final motion for third reading? Oh, everybody got shy. Oh, Councillor McQueen, go ahead.
Mayor Burrows, I'll make a motion that council give third reading to bylaw 575/21.
Thank you, Councillor McQueen. Any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call it. Councillor Rennie?
In favor?
Councillor Klein?
In favor.
Councillor McQueen?
In favor?
Councillor Prestige?
In favor.
Councillor Cush?
In favor.
Councillor Govan?
In favor.
And I vote in favor. So that is passed. And I'm just going to make sure I didn't skip over anything in the past, like sometimes I do, and I didn't. So,
Mayor Burrows,
yes, go ahead, Councillor
just
Klein.
a question regarding our last discussion regarding the acknowledgement of the two councillors. Did we need a motion for that?
I don't believe we did. I'll defer to Mr. Frank, but I don't think we need a motion to accept the delegation or anything, or maybe we do. Mr. Frank?
Your worship, members of council, is it technically on the agenda, a motion to accept the delegation or presentation that was presented?
Okay, sorry, my mistake there. It's a little different having a member of council doing the presentation. So I guess we will need a motion on item 6.2 to accept the retiring council presentation as information. Did you want to make that motion, Councillor Klein?
I would love to do that, Mayor Burrows. After the number of years those gentlemen put in, I would be honored to do that.
Okay, very good. So a motion on the floor from back on item 6.2 from Councillor Klein on the floor. Any discussion on that one? Don't see any, and I will go ahead and call the question. Councillor Rennie?
In favor?
Councillor Klein?
Favor.
Councillor McQueen?
In favor?
Councillor Prestige?
In favor.
Councillor Cush?
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock?
In favor.
And I vote in favor. Okay. All right, now we're on to new business. So item 8.1. So that's an application for the Provincial Education Requisition Credit, or PERC, as everybody's been delineating it these days. Go ahead, Alicia, take it away.
Thank you. So before council today from administration is an application that we would like to submit to the province for credit on our education taxes that we had paid, and then we're unable to collect the rolls from the respective companies. The provincial education requisition credit is winding down. I believe it is October 31st is the deadline for submissions on this program. So we wanted to get this in to them so that we would have a good chance of having it approved by the end of 2021. We have attached the listing of, with the company names redacted, but we have attached the full listing of all that we're applying for, and this application represents approximately $888,000 worth of taxation revenue that we're writing off, which is within the recovery plan and the budgeted amount for 2021, and hopeful that we're not going through this again. We still have some conversations with a few companies we've been working with and waiting to see if they continue to fulfill their promises to pay. Any questions?
Okay, fairly straightforward then, I guess. Does anyone wish to make a motion to proceed with the application? Okay, I'll go ahead and, oh, there's Councillor Cush. Go ahead.
I'll make the motion that council provide administration authorization to write off the accounts identified as uncollectible and proceed with the application to the province to recover the education requisition previously paid on the uncollected taxation rolls.
Okay, very good. Motion on the floor from Councillor Cush. Any discussion on that motion? I see no hands up, no mics open, so I'll call the question. Councillor Rennie.
In favor?
Councillor Klein.
Favor?
Councillor McQueen.
In favor?
Councillor Prestige.
In favor.
Councillor Cush.
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock.
In favor.
And I am in favor. That one's off. So now here comes the really good news. Transfer to reserves, item 8.2. Alicia, that's going to be you again.
I was quick on getting the camera off. Thank you again. So first one, 8.2, is before council with the recommendation from administration to transfer $1,500,000 to the Public Works Equipment Reserve. This money came about from our successful provincial education credit application that we had submitted in 2020. So essentially what has transpired is we collected education tax on rolls in 2021, and then we received this credit from the province after the fact. So it is our recommendation that we move that physical cash to a reserve fund for future consideration for the public works equipment. Any questions?
Very good. Any questions to Alicia on this one? Okay. If we don't have any questions, go ahead, Councillor Govenlock.
Mayor Burrows.
I have Councillor Govenlock first.
Yeah, and so there's little doubt that what we have is some of the unpaid taxes that were partially the provincial education being recovered from the province. This isn't new money. This is money that we had to give up, and we're simply getting it back. And I'm curious as to why we're dedicating it to equipment reserves as opposed to simply putting it back into general revenues where the money was taken out of to begin with.
Through the chair to Councillor Govenlock, administration is open to any designation of where you would wish to have these funds put in. The request for decision was simply written as is to make it a clear and concise document for council to go through. We're certainly agreeable to change the funds. I simply, in writing the RFD and in discussion with the senior management team, identified that infrastructure services is a large component of the county's operations, and made the choice simply for that reason.
Okay, thanks, Alicia.
And so, Alicia, I respect that. However, the money did come out of the general accounts, and the concern I have related to this also has to do with whether this was factored in to the 2021 budget discussions as well as an anticipated revenue source. I think the misrepresentation of dedicating it to equipment reserves is a bit of a concern for me. Protecting that money so it doesn't become part of the slush fund is also a part of my concern there, but I would like to have some rationale behind the decision, and so to that extent, I'll like to hear from other members of council, I guess.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Gunlock. I heard Councillor Prestige, and then I have Councillor Klein's hand up as well. So did Councillor Prestige, did you have a question or wish to make a motion, or what's?
Well, I wanted to make the motion to transfer $1,500,000 to Public Works Equipment Reserve.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Prestige. So there's a motion on the floor from Councillor Prestige. Councillor Klein, did you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, thank you. And as Councillor Govenlock had just said, we as a council have been criticized over the last few years as having this operating fund that we use as a slush fund. We have money now that we could be setting aside, and one of the biggest ticket items coming forward in the next few years is going to be the replacement of a fleet of graders. To me, it makes perfect and common sense that if we have the money that we can set aside right now, let's do that. Thank you, Bruce, for making that motion.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Klein. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? I don't see anyone, so I'm going to go ahead and call the question. So, Councillor Rennie.
In favor?
Okay, I heard more woof than in favor. Can you just restate that? Councillor Rennie?
I was in favor.
Perfect. I heard in favor from Councillor Rennie. Councillor Klein?
In favor.
Councillor McQueen?
In favor.
Councillor Prestige?
In favor.
In favor from Councillor Prestige. Councillor Cush?
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock?
Oh, I'm in favor, yes.
Okay, and I'm in favor as well, so that item is passed. Alicia, you are up on item 8.3 as well, transfer to reserve accounts.
Thank you again, Mayor Burrows. So I am before you again, representing administration with a request for decision to transfer additional funds to the reserve accounts. Transferring to reserve account and making the physical move of money from the general account to a separate bank account provides that additional level of transparency, as any time that council wishes to see the bank balances, they can ask for a printout to come forward. And having it in a separate account would then allow any motions to be tied directly to movement of funds in or out of the account. Again, the choosing of the, sorry, let me back up. So in the 2021 budget, it was the final number when we finished the budget adjustments in April of 2021 was $892,000 to be moved to, $935,928 to be moved to reserve allocations. So I've simply rounded up by going to the $950,000. Again, the only reason I chose the reserve funds that I did from the summary that was attached to the RFD dated December 31st, 2020 is simply for ease of fulfilling and totally funding some of those lines. But again, administration is agreeable to make any reserve name transfers that council would wish to make at this time.
Okay, thanks very much. Sorry, my camera's not on. There we go. Councillor Govenlock, go ahead.
So one of the reserves is called admin operating reserve. Can you tell me what the admin operating reserve is?
Through the chair to Councillor Govenlock, I would need to go through prior council minutes to come back around to when that particular reserve was named. As per policy, any monies that are in these reserve funds must come before council for expenditure or movement out of these funds prior to the monies being spent. So it was, and maybe erroneously so in my mind, just picking reserves, there wasn't a big science to it other than I was just trying to fully fund as many of them as I could prior to year end. So you would have full control of this money once it's moved, as expenditure of this money must come before council. My personal opinion in an admin operating reserve potentially would be an unforeseen expense such as a server going down that runs all of our software programs. Then we would be looking for replacement. It can be a costly item, so at that point it would come to council for approval to use this money. That would just be one quick example that I would think of.
And I appreciate that. However, I really would like to know what administrative operating reserves parameters are there. And so I'm very uncomfortable with putting 312,000 into administration hands to, again, dispose of. I would recommend that 312,000 be transferred to infrastructure reserves. And I'll make that as a motion.
So the motion is that you transfer it to infrastructure reserves. Is that correct, Councillor Govenlock? So that's the 312,000?
That's correct.
Okay, any discussion on that motion? I don't see any discussion on that motion. I'm going to weigh in on this just quickly. And I want to make sure that I'm getting this right for Militia, but an admin operating reserve, anything that's once it's allocated to a reserve can't come out of a reserve unless council authorizes it to. Is that correct, Alicia?
Through the chair, yes, that is correct.
Okay, so the idea that administration could just use this however they want is not accurate. That would be a council decision once it's into the administrative reserve. So for that reason, I'd be voting against this motion. Anyone else wish to speak to the motion? Okay, I don't see any, so I'm going to go ahead and call the question. Councillor Rennie?
My hand's still up.
Well, your hand's been up the whole time, Councillor Govenlock. I can't.
Yeah, because I was wanting to.
I can't delineate between. If you take it down in between, it would help me figure out whether or not you've got another question. But go ahead, Councillor Govenlock.
But just I guess to put another perspective on the admin operating reserves and the amount of money that's being put there. Any of the anticipated expenditures for administration should be carefully considered in a budget there, and certainly the priority for I guess for myself and for the residents that I represent is the infrastructure area. The roads and the maintenance and the repairs of the roads of this municipality are their number one priority. there, and I want to dedicate every dollar that I can to prevent the misappropriation of reserve dollars. We were $12.5 million in reserves before that all of a sudden seemed to disappear into thin air. There and still to date, we don't have an explanation for where that money went. So I'm very, I guess, troubled by the thought that administration is more important than the roads that this municipality has a responsibility to maintain. And I'd like to make, I guess, reaffirm my expectations that that money should be dedicated towards infrastructure.
Okay, so there's still a motion on the floor from Councillor Govenlock, and Alicia, you have your hand up. Did you want to respond to something, or?
Thank you, Mayor Burrows. Through the chair to the rest of council. I'm in 100% agreement with Councillor Govenlock is saying, and I'm referring to the attachment to the RFD, which was the summary of reserves as of December 31st, 2020, which does show a balance of the expectation that to be $12 million in reserves. Through the exercise, and if you note the next line of 432,221.76 infrastructure reserve, that line would then fully fund the infrastructure reserve as anticipated on this form. Perhaps it would be beneficial for the $312,000 to be moved into the working capital reserve, which we are trying to bring that back up to $2.5 million balance. So if council was in agreement to that, then potentially that would satisfy Councillor Govenlock's concerns.
Okay, well, we still have a motion on the floor from Councillor Govenlock to go that direction. So with that, Councillor Govenlock?
I would make a friendly amendment to my motion to transfer that to the working capital reserves as per Alicia's comments.
Thank you. Okay, so motion on the floor to transfer the $312,000 to the working capital reserves from Councillor Govenlock. Any discussion on that motion? I don't see any. I'll call the question. Councillor Rennie.
In favor?
Councillor Klein.
Favor.
Councillor McQueen.
In favor.
Councillor Prestige.
In favor.
Councillor Kush.
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock.
I'd be in favor.
And I'm in favor. Okay. That takes care of the 312. Go ahead, Alicia. Sorry, Councillor Klein.
Well, we've dealt 312, so that leaves 3 more to deal with. So I was going to make a motion to deal with those, unless Alicia has something else.
Go ahead.
Okay. So first, I want to thank Alicia for the work, and I'm looking at the background information here, and it says basically asking for motion to move the transfers to reserve and into their own interest-bearing accounts. We've been criticized for years having slush funds and leaving administration spend the money willy-nilly doing whatever they bloody well want. This indicates that everything now has to come back to council. So thank you for that. With that, I'm going to make a motion to transfer $432,221 into infrastructure reserve, $100,000 into airport capital reserve, $105,778.24 into water operating reserve.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Klein. So motion on the floor from Councillor Klein. Any discussion on that motion? I see no microphones on, no hands up, so I'm going to call the question. Councillor Rennie.
In favor?
Councillor Klein.
In favor.
Councillor McQueen.
In favor.
Councillor Prestige.
In favor.
Councillor Kush.
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock.
In favor.
I'm in favor. All right, that'll bring us to policy review, item 8.4. Mr. Frank?
Your worship, members of council, these upon reviewing our policies, we're asking council to give consideration to repeal policy 1004, 1005, 1006, and 1008, as they all have been integrated into the procedural policy or other policies that have council presently have approved.
Okay, Councillor Govenlock.
Well, I respect administration's diligence in making review of policies the priority at this late date in the game. However, there's a lot of policies in that policy manual that I think are far more important than these ones. And I like clarification. I like policies that are short, clear, and address the issues. And I did a quick review of those policies, and I kind of like them, and I'd like to see them stay there. And so I'm going to move that council leave policies 104, 105, and 106 on the books.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Govenlock. There's a motion on the floor from Councillor Govenlock to actually leave the policies. I'm just going to speak to the motion here. To my understanding, I'll ask for clarification on this, but to my understanding, when you have a policy, you try and put that policy into one policy. So if we have two areas where we've got policies that are reflecting each other or that they're carrying over, it makes it tremendously difficult for administration, because if there's a revision on one, there has to be a revision on the other. And I believe admin's emphasis on this is actually to try and get rid of the duplication of policy, but that's my understanding. I'm going to just ask Mr. Frank to clarify that.
Your worship, members of council, in particular policy 10.04, 10.06, and 10.08 actually are integrated into the bylaw 57321, which would supersede any policy, because bylaws supersede policies, and therefore would precedence. And then the other complaints to councillor policy, council recently adopted the service request tracking, which identifies how complaints are handled.
Okay, thanks very much. So I think that clarifies it a little bit. Anyways, I'll be looking for any other comments or anyone wishing to speak to the motion. Councillor Govenlock.
So what Mr. Frank said is that we have now a distinction between policies and bylaws. And bylaws have more bite, more authority than a policy. I have to suggest that some of the concerns that I expressed at the last meeting on the procedural bylaw policy totally changes the opportunity for residents or council to participate in a democratic process there to address issues that all of us think are important. And so I remain very adamant that the policies remain on the books, and this is a decision that the new council perhaps could consider in the next 4 years.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? If not, I'll call the question. Councillor Rennie.
In favor?
Councillor Klein.
Sarah Martin, Mayor Burrows, could you have Shannon read the exact wording to the motion back then?
Okay, we'll just ask the, sorry, Shannon. The motion is to leave the policies as is.
Okay, if that's the indication, I'm opposed to that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Klein. Councillor McQueen.
I'm opposed.
Okay, Councillor Prestige.
Opposed.
Councillor Cush.
Opposed.
Councillor Govenlock.
Very much in favor.
I am opposed. 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's defeated. Anyone wish to make a motion to on the recommended action? Councillor Prestige.
I'll make a motion that council repeal policies 1004, distribution of council agendas and minutes, 1005, complaints to councilors, 1006, meeting dates, and 1008, reports to council.
Thank you, Councillor Prestige. Motion on the floor from Councillor Prestige. Any discussion on that motion? I don't see any hands up or mics on, so I'm going to call the question. Councillor Rennie.
Just because I think that the next council could easily have a good chance to begin some good dialogue, I'm going to vote in objection to the motion.
Okay. Councillor Rennie's opposed. Councillor Klein.
In favor.
Councillor McQueen.
In favor.
Councillor Prestige.
In favor.
Councillor Cush.
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock.
Very much opposed.
Okay, and I'm in favor. That's 1, 2, 3, 5. That is carried. Okay, at this point, I'm going to ask for a 10-minute break. We're just going to take a 10-minute break here. So we'll reconvene at, well, we'll make it 9 minutes. So we'll reconvene at, well, I guess not. The clock just tipped over here. So we'll reconvene at 11:32. So just need a moment to stretch legs. Okay, it's 11:32, so we're back. Mr. Frank, you have your hand up. I'm just going to address you quickly, and then I'll ask the council back.
Your worship, just a note that Councillor Rennie left the meeting at 11:23.
Okay. Councillor Rennie, what have we got?
Just 2 more for you.
Oh, this is to sign. Okay, thank you. All right, so I'll double check everybody in attendance. Councillor Rennie has left the meeting. We'll make a note of that at 11:32. Councillor Klein, are you back?
Yes, sir, I'm back.
Councillor McQueen?
Yep, I'm here.
Councillor Prestige?
I'm here.
Councillor Cush?
Here.
Councillor Govenlock?
Here.
And I'm here. Okay. Surplus breathing air equipment. Next item on the agenda, that's item 8.5. Who's going to take us through this one from admin? Mr. Webb.
Good morning, Your Worship and Council. We have effectively rolled out and are operating the new air packs within all 4 fire departments. So we have gone around and picked up all the old expired breathing air equipment and have conducted an inventory through it. And I'm asking that council declares these expired fire air packs as surplus in accordance with policy 1206 and allows us to sell them to potential bidders.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Webb. Any questions to administration on this one? Councillor Klein. Councillor Klein, you're muted.
Thank you, Mayor Burrows, and Scott, thanks for working with the departments to get the new equipment in place. I was down a couple weeks ago and we did the fit test. I'm getting old and fat, and someday that may come in handy and save my life. Just one question: could you explain to council the second paragraph in the background that says local oil and gas companies have expressed interest in purchasing equipment? So it's no longer good for us, but it's okay for oil and gas. Could you explain that? And is it the NFPA standards or? Yeah,
yes. Yes. It is. They're not NFPA certified anymore. They're out of date. They only have a 15-year life expectancy, and they don't meet the new NFPA requirements. But as work packs for the oil and gas industry or companies that have breathing air equipment and stuff like that, they're fully certified. They've been flow tested. They're still certified and supported by 3M Scott. They're just not fire rated anymore.
Okay, thank you for that, Scott. With that, Mayor Burrows, I'll make a motion to Woodlands County Council declares the expired fire department breathing air equipment as surplus in accordance with our surplus policy of 1206.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Klein. I'm going to ask for anyone speaking to the motion at this point. So, Councillor Govenlock, I see your hands up. Go ahead.
Well, it is rather redundant and ironic that for some reason these aren't good enough for the fire departments, but they're good enough for the fire departments that work in the oil and gas industry. It seems a little hypocritical from my perspective that we would have to spend nearly $1 million to upgrade to the newest version and get rid of stuff that apparently is very useful and workable. I don't understand it.
On a point of clarification, Mr. Webb, how much did we spend on the new breathing equipment? Was it $1 million?
No, Your Worship. It was, I believe the bill was $350,000 was the money allotted to us.
Thanks very much. And to Councillor Govenlock's question, the NFPA is what? Can you just expand that acronym for us?
The National Fire Protection Association.
And that's
what we're governed by, is the NFPA. These packs would not be used for firefighting on their fire trucks. These packs would be used for work packs that would allow confined space entry. that sort of stuff for those types of companies.
Okay, thanks for the clarification, Mr. Webb. So there is a motion on the floor. Councillor Klein, do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, and then thank you, Scott. And there again, right, what goes on within fire departments and our safety equipment is no different than what's going on right now with COVID. There should be a big sign at the front door that says, "We don't make the rules." NFPA makes the rules. The insurance companies tell us we must follow the rules or we have no insurance. We don't have a choice.
Thanks, Councillor Klein. Any other discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. Councillor Klein.
In favor.
Councillor McQueen.
In favor.
Councillor Prestige.
In favor.
Councillor Cush.
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock.
I guess if we're not going to use them there and somebody else can put them to use, let's recover and see what we get for them.
Okay, so that's in favor, Councillor Govenlock?
I think that's what it translates as, yes.
I vote in favor. That item is passed. Okay, quarterly update, item 8.6, quarterly update RCMP, Barhead RCMP, LSAC Control, Services, and Woodlands County Fire Department stats. Mr. Webb, that's going to be you again.
Yes, Your Worship and Council. I'll do my best here. I sent everything through the council or with the package there. I'm just going through Barhead stats. Break in and enter are down 25%. Theft of motor vehicles are down 75% from 20 to 2021. Theft over 5,000 is unfortunately increased by 100%. Theft under 5,000 is down 36%. Arson is down 100%. Mischief to property and damage of property is up 33%. Mischief, just general mischief, is that's 0. And these are the stats that we were provided with from Barhead Detachment. Again, this only touches our Fort Assiniboine area. And now we have the stats from Whitecourt, which covers the majority of our county. Break in and enter is down 7%. Theft of motor vehicles is down 27%. Theft over 5,000 is up 67%. Theft under 5,000 is up 33%. Possession of stolen goods is down 56%. Fraud is down 40%. Arson is up 50% from 2020. Mischief is up 17%. That's damage to property, sorry. And other mischief is down 20%. And again, these are comparable stats with between both RCMP detachments. With our fire departments, from 2019, 2020, and 2021, our Anselmo calls have increased. And our calls are made up of structural and wildland fires, basically house alarm calls, medical assist. Medical assists are when our fire departments are sent out to assist AHS or, well, usually AHS for any medical assist. We've had some public assistance responses where our fire teams have been out and helped public assistance in the event of Anselmo. We participated in the search for the lost hunter here in the, I want to say in the spring, April-ish, and we were working with the RCMP. They respond to vehicle incidents, mutual aid calls, Lac St. Anne County, Blue Ridge. We have actually, Anselmo was paged out September 1st by Whitecourt Fire to assist with a non-Woodlands related area structure fire call. And so we sent a fire team for that assistance as well. Moving on to Blue Ridge, our calls from 2019, they're going down. So we had 51 calls in 2019 to 27 calls year to date, the September 27th in 2021. Our calls, again, no different than in Salmos, structural wildland fires, alarm calls. We have done with regards to all the other calls, the medical assist and that. Blue Ridge has responded to search and rescues this year, water rescues this year, mutual aid calls with Lac St. Anne, Goose Lake, and again, Whitecourt Fire has paged us out for non-Woodlands related structure fires. So we have a good relationship with all of our departments working around us. Fort Assiniboine, one of our busiest ones, the busiest haul actually. So in 2019, we had 61 calls. As of September 27th, we had 48 calls with Fort Assiniboine. Fort Assiniboine, the majority of our calls in Fort Assiniboine are medical calls. We do a lot of medical assists out there, but we do have paramedics, PCP paramedics on staff out there. So they do a lot of quick responses because AHS is so far to get to. It's about 30 minutes to get a AHS unit out there. So there's a lot of community support when it comes to our ambulance out there. They've assisted. They've had their own water rescue calls, their own search and rescues. They've assisted us in Goose Lake and Blue Ridge with search and rescue calls as well. We've done mutual aid calls with Barhead. We've done mutual aid calls with Swan Hills, and then again, Goose Lake and Blue Ridge as well. Goose Lake Fire, their calls are pretty steady. In 2019, they had 17. 2020, they had 14 calls. In 2021, we're at 13 so far. Again, they do, again, structural and wildland fires. They do a lot of alarm calls, public assistance responses. They respond to vehicle incidents out there as well and help out with our Fort Assiniboine team. They've also participated in the water and search and rescues as we needed the staff. Mutual aid calls with Lac St. Anne, Fort Assiniboine, and Blue Ridge. But the most calls for Goose Lake are our mutual aid calls. There's not a lot of immediates right in Goose Lake, which is really good because it's absolutely a little piece of heaven out there. It's a really nice area. Our Lac St. Anne patrol officers, working with them, they provide the county and the county residents with a lot of things. They enforce traffic safety, including commercial vehicles and off-highway vehicle regulations. We've seen that in the speeding complaints and the OHV that we in Blue Ridge area. Bylaw enforcement, they've helped our development team with property cleanup orders. They've delivered tax recovery notices. They provide mutual aid for the Whitecourt RCMP, the RCMP Traffic Integrated Unit, Fish and Wildlife, commercial vehicle enforcement, ESRD, patrol county recreation sites, and they attend events when requested. They're very proactive and preventive enforcement through positive policing. They really, sitting there talking to the guys, the team, they would rather not hand out a ticket. They would rather educate the young gentleman or the young lady that's on an ATV, the rules and regulations, and kind of let them go, and hopefully they don't do it again. And it's been very positive I think it's been very positive in Blue Ridge. Councillor Prestige might be able to speak more to that, but from my talking with them and then talking with the people that are on the fire team in Blue Ridge, they don't see a whole bunch of the ATVs running around Blue Ridge. They're direct line out of town, and then they go do what they do. But in the incidents, they have effectively, they've issued 2 unsightly properties. They've done some criminal codes, 2 general inquiries, and those would be items that we've asked them to do. 6 OHV complaints, couple nuisance complaints, a lot of animal control complaints, 13, and 29 citations. And out of those 29 citations, the fines have been, the total events have been 557. events and those 29 citation. The fine amounts are $6,266. Money collected is $3,037. So there's still some outstanding money that's owed from their citations. But they're very responsive. If we get complaints, we call them. We've put the 1-800 number up on the website. People know to call that 1-800 number. It goes straight to a dispatch line, and there's an officer calling within minutes of the person who called to get the information. So very well done with those guys. A great group of people to work with. Does anybody have any questions?
Councillor Klein.
Yeah, yes, Mayor Burrows. A couple of questions for Scott. One of them is fire department related. Probably the busiest fire department. We never see anything from. We put money into the Whitecourt Fire Department and have been for years, but we never see any of their responses or what they're doing for the county. How hard would it be to get that information and include it in the next presentations? I think it would be interesting for our ratepayers to know what they're getting for their dollar.
Yes, I tried to pull stats through Parkland Dispatch, and I could not. So I've reached out to Mr. Wynn, and hopefully get some information from him. I'll continue to work with Chief Wynn.
Okay, thank you. As you said, we've worked with that. The fire departments here have worked really closely. I know I've been on numerous calls, and they're a good bunch of guys. I don't think you'll have any problem getting that. The other question I had, and I don't know if you can answer it for me or not, and it's on page 98 of the RCMP report. The one that really concerns me is there's two little red lines there, that issues, and that's well-being and mental health act. With everything going on in the world today with COVID and stresses that are out of most people's controls, I'm just wondering what's related in those two issues. I know in the last year or so, I sit on the Provincial Agricultural Service Board Committee, and I was asked to make a presentation to Mr. Dreeshen regarding mental health issues within the farming communities and how it was affecting some of our producers within the province, period, not just this area, because of the stresses that they've been through in the last few years. And now we've got producers going through exactly the same thing. It's funny, people deal with stress differently. I was just wondering if you had any idea what these were, or if we could get that information. Thank you.
No, I will definitely look at that and get you an answer. But I honestly can't answer that question. These are their stats.
Okay, thank you, Scott.
Yep.
Councillor
Burrows.
Yep, go ahead.
Yes, on the patrol services, myself and quite a few residents have noticed that it has gotten a lot better with outsourcing the patrol services than when we had it in-house. These people with Lac-Saint-Anne County are great to deal with. I'm impressed with how they're handling the service.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Prestige. Any other questions to Mr. Webb? Okay, if there's nothing further, I'll accept a motion to accept the RCMP quarterly update. Don't everybody jump at once. Councillor McQueen.
Yep, Mayor Burrows, I'll make a motion that council accepts the quarterly protective services statistic update for information.
Thank you, Councillor McQueen. Any discussion on that motion? Don't see any. I'll start at Councillor Klein. Since Councillor Rennie is not here, go ahead, Councillor Klein.
In favor.
Councillor McQueen.
In favor.
Councillor Prestige.
In favor.
Councillor Cush.
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock.
In favor.
I'm in favor. Okay, that brings us to correspondence and information items, 9.1. Anyone pick up anything there? Okay, if there's nothing, I will accept a motion to accept the correspondence and information items as circulated. Councillor Cush.
I'll make a motion to accept the correspondence and information items as circulated.
Thank you, Councillor Cush. Motion on the floor from Councillor Cush. Any discussion on that? I see none. I will call the question. Councillor Klein.
In favor.
Councillor McQueen.
In favor.
Councillor Prestige.
In favor.
Councillor Cush.
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock.
In favor.
And I'm in favor. Okay, that brings us to, keep crossing things off here, brings us to our council reports. So we'll start with Councillor Klein.
Good, thanks, Mayor Burrows. I got a couple of things. Last night I was at the local Ag Society meeting, and a couple of things came up there that I thought you might find interesting. One thing, the committee down there, the Ag Society, has been looking at maybe developing a website. They're going to advertise what we do and show what's for rental and different events and whatever. One of the thoughts that came out of that meeting as I was sitting there was, our county has numerous volunteer groups within the county, all probably trying to do the same thing. I'm wondering what we could do as the county to sit down with these groups and maybe come up with one website. To develop a website takes a long time. These are all volunteers. They're very expensive to keep up and keep running. I just thought it would be an idea if we as a municipality could sit down with them and maybe put one together where all of our community groups could do the same thing. And
okay.
Just throwing it out there. I'm hoping somebody on staff might be able to help us with that or get this started. They're all volunteers busting their butts to make us all look good and provide a service. We're just looking for a way to work with them.
I think Mr. Frank is going to come on and say that might be a notice of motion that you want to make. Mr. Frank, go ahead.
No, Your Worship. Actually, we've through Heather Anderson, through Recreation Programming and Community Services, have offered that with all our community groups. And we can reach back and see. It's been a couple of years since we've done that, so I'll ask Joan to look into it, and then we'll report back to council.
Okay, thanks, Gord. The other thing that came out of our meeting last night, so we're in the process of getting up and running for our winter activities. We're going to be putting in the ice within the next couple of weeks, but the problem, and there again, I told them last night to make a big sign hang on the doors that says we don't make the rules. The rules specifically say right now that we can run hockey for our children, anybody under 16. As long as we run at 1/3 capacity and the parents have masks on, that's okay. But for the adult clubs, it's mandatory that somebody is at the door and gets to see that they've been vaccinated or they have a test before we allow them in the building. So what we're going to do, because there again, we're a small volunteer group. Last night there was 5 members at the meeting. We're not going to have our staff or one of our volunteers stand there to try and enforce something that the province says we have to do. It's dividing communities like you've never seen before. I'll be damned if we're going to turn a bunch of volunteers to bust their butts into the bad people. So what we're going to do is we're going to rent it to the different clubs. And it's going to be pointed out to them that if that is the rules of the province, one of their team captains or someone from their group is going to have to enforce it. As I said, we don't make the rules. We've been told by the health inspector that's what we have to do. We're just going to try and pass the buck the best we can. The least we're going to do is open up the facilities and get those young kids in there. Somebody's got to have fun these days, and let's get the kids out there and let them have some fun this winter at least. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Klein. Councillor McQueen.
I was kind of a quiet one up here for meeting wise. I missed one last night, but it was busy on the farm. It's weaning time and shipping time and hay coming in and everything else. So it was just kind of a goofy go. I just wanted to say one thank you that I kind of missed, and that was to Gord. You kind of come in here, Gordon. It glued this council together, and you came in a real bad time. And I appreciate everything you've done here. And I just wish you the best of luck when this is all said and done. And I hope things go really good for you here down the road. I just wanted to say we had a really good year up here at the campground. This is the most amount of money it's ever pulled in. It was well over $70,000 is what this that little campground pulled in this year. Amazing for the size of it and everything else. And I'd just like to say that a resource officer, I don't know where he's off to now, but he just went past here heading toward Klein's place with lights and sirens going. I think he heard that Klein harvested his Ganji there yesterday, and he's probably sucking on a 4-pound doobie, so he wants to go check him out. But anyway, everything else is good around this neck of the woods.
Thank you, Councillor McQueen, and thank you again for all you've done on council.
That stuff's legal now.
Councillor Prestige.
Well, it's been pretty slow around the community the last couple of weeks. I haven't had any meetings that I could attend. But just on a general review, the Splash Park in Blue Ridge was a great success this summer. Well used. In this area, the crime has been fairly, how can I say, we don't see a lot of activity. So it's just been a good summer for the area. So I'd like to thank all the staff from Woodlands County for all the work they do around the community here, and hopefully we have a good year coming up. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Prestige. Councillor Cush.
Again, been a little quiet. Had a meeting with the Ensemble Board, and a lot of it was just looking at stuff we were planning to do this fall. That's all on hiatus now with all the new restrictions come back out. And again, with the Yellowhead Regional Library, taking a look at just kind of where they're sitting this year and where they hope to get next year, and just kind of how things have been affecting them over the last year too. It's been tough on libraries everywhere with all the constant changes. So it's just kind of going over how they're planning to adapt to hopefully this fall and see what things look like next year.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Cush. Councillor Govenlock.
So again, my focus is on some questions with, I guess, beginning with the CAO contract. And so, Mr. Burrows, when I last raised this subject matter, you told me that you would be bringing that contract back to council within a meeting or two quite shortly. This is back in April that we began that discussion. There was a legal, I guess, perspective requested by council. And I'm rather concerned and frustrated by the failure or maybe the misinformation of my colleagues to address this matter. Can you give me an update as to where that contract is at, what the status of that situation is?
It'll be part of the orientation for the new council, so.
That's not good enough. You told me that this information was coming forward. Now, a yes or no answer. did you sign off on a new contract for the CAO or not?
Yes.
So without council's endorsement, you and
Yeah.
Mr. McQueen both
Again,
signed off on a
council's-
contract that council has yet to see and hasn't factored in the legal background. Would that be accurate?
No, that's not accurate. Everything that
Well,
was
correct
was
me,
done in
please.
accordance with the wishes of council. So again, if you can't remember the things that were authorized by council, I can't help you. So
No, the thing that was authorized by council was for you and Mr. McQueen to discuss with Mr. Frank things in that contract, not to approve the contract. You didn't have that authority. Plus, you were the very person that told us this was coming back to council. So the lies are a little bit hard for me to take. The motion was made.
I don't appreciate being accused of lies at this point, and smearing me or Councillor McQueen over this is not going to get you anywhere. The motion was made to have us deal with the contract, and it's done. There was a motion made to enter into an agreement with the CAO. So that's been done.
Rather convenient that Mr. Frank and you would agree to that kind of a contract without council or the legal perspective that was required.
If you don't like it as an individual, I can't help you.
You're right. I don't like lies and betrayal of trust.
I will not be accused of lies when the motion on the table that was passed by council was very clear. The authority was given and we acted. So we're done.
No, we're not done. We're not done.
What else do you have, Councillor Govenlock?
The next question has to do with the legal opinion on the use of firearms. What that motion that I put forward requested was to bring back to council for discussion options to address the misuse of firearms in a country residential subdivision. Now, I've looked at the legal opinion that has been provided, and all that legal opinion does is address the roadblocks. It doesn't look for solutions. So I have 4 or 5 neighbors whose rights are being, I think, overlooked or sidetracked because we can't, as a council, provide them with clear guidance as to how to address that irresponsible behavior. So I'd like to know what particular I think steps have been taken by administration to identify solutions to the problem. Was the RCMP consulted or asked about this matter by anybody in administration prior to this particular meeting? So we've got something to discuss as solutions.
Mr. Frank.
Your worship, members of council, the purpose of the closed session in regards to is to provide council with a legal opinion of their legal obligation in regards to firearms. Once council has then reviewed that agreement and provided further direction to administration, that's when we would then propose solutions based on the discussion of council.
Mr. Frank, would you answer the question? Has anybody contacted the RCMP with regards to this matter from administration?
Mr. Mayor, through to Councillor Govenlock, again, what we directed from administration in the RFT that is in closed session is before council for discussion.
So we can't answer the question.
No answering that question, Councillor Govenlock, in a closed session.
No, the public has a right to know, Mr. Frank.
Well, and the public can know after we come out of closed session. We've already had that discussion there, Mr. Councillor Govenlock. So what's next?
Well, I guess is to suggest to the public that perhaps a couple of members of this council are up for re-election, and perhaps the public can make the right decisions about who's prepared to represent them in a new council.
I absolutely agree. Okay, so thanks, Councillor Govenlock, for everything. I'm going to move on to my report. I attended the Northern Mayors and Reeves Conference, and we had another meeting with Reeves and Mayors, and it was interesting. We actually had and I hesitate to talk about COVID because it always takes up the news, the headlines and everything. But one of the discussions was around the mandatory vaccination requirement for healthcare workers, and the individual municipalities were going to be left up whether to talk to the individual, make a recommendation to the province as to whether to endorse that or not. And the issue that we were having, or that was identified at that particular time, was if the mandatory vaccination is required, you could lose healthcare staff to the point that you're putting an extra strain on the system by losing staff. One of the conversations that arose out of that was I was researching some of the options for vaccination, and if you go through all the vaccines that are currently available in Canada, you take one shot, wait 2 or 3 weeks, take another shot, and then you're about 3 or 4 weeks till full efficacy. So it's about an 8-week process with the current vaccines that are available. There is one vaccine that's available under the J&J. It's called the Janssen vaccine, and it's a single shot, and it is 2 weeks to full efficacy. So if you've got people that are concerned about one versus the other, you're giving them an option. And again, as government officials, I think it's important that people be given options on these kind of things. So if the goal is to try and get as many people vaccinated as possible in the shortest period of time as possible, conveniently as possible, one shot, 2 weeks to full efficacy seems like a good option to go, and it eliminates some of the other concerns that people might have had about the mRNA. So that discussion brought about, and it's interesting because 3 days ago or 2 days ago on the news, I read that the Kenny government is actually putting a request for the Janssen vaccine or the Johnson & Johnson vaccine from the federal government. So I'm waiting to see where that's going to lead, and hopefully it's an option that a few people will be able to choose. So with that, it's been a very difficult 4 years that we've signed up for. I think everybody on council will agree it's been a tough 4 years, and the last 2 have been particularly difficult. We've had to learn the virtual meetings. We've had to go through all of these different changes in our the way we carry out meetings. It's been tough. But what I do want to say is that I think through the actions of this council and the things that we've put forward, and certainly the transfers to reserves that we're seeing at the moment, we're on the road to recovery. And I think the real, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the staff and the CAO for all their efforts in getting Woodlands County to that goal and helping administration through four very, very difficult years. So with that concludes my report for the last council meeting. So hopefully I'm back and we'll see how it goes. With that, I'll accept a motion to Councillor Klein.
Mayor Burrows, I'll make a motion to accept the reports for information, and I have to agree, we've come a long ways in the last couple of years. Somebody else built the road and we had to rebuild it. It was out of our hands, but I think we've done, along with our staff, a hell of a good job in the last couple of years. Thank you for that.
Thanks for the motion, Councillor Klein. Any discussion on that motion? Okay, I'll call the question. Councillor Klein?
In favor.
Councillor McQueen?
In favor.
Councillor Prestige?
In favor.
Councillor Cush?
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock?
In favor.
And I'm in favor. So that item is carried, and that will take us into the financial report. We have none, and we've got a CAO report. Go ahead, Mr. Frank.
Yeah, Your Worship, members of council, last week we concluded our arbitration final arguments on September 27th to the 29th, and I'll go into more detail in regards to that under closed session in regards to it. The staff have been working on the preparation of budget, and with the changeover in the elections, an orientation that will quickly follow that. We anticipate starting budget meetings in early November and hopefully concluding them by the end of December. But again, that'll be up to the next council as well. As you're aware and as indicated to council, the elections are upcoming, and on October 18th is the election day. Today is our first advanced voting. I believe it's from 1 to 4, and then on Saturday as well. The last thing I want to report on is the orientation package that we've been put together, that there are 17 items that for the new elected officials will be provided with, along with their electronic devices, and hopefully with COVID that we'll be able to do it in person with understanding meeting all the Alberta health restrictions. And with that, Your Worship, I'll open the floor for questions.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Frank. And I think maybe it's important to note as well that with the conclusion of the arbitration process, and just mention again that entire process is available on the YouTube channel, and I think it's Woodlands County Admin. Is that correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. So again, in an effort to try and be transparent, we've got the entirety of those meetings on YouTube. So, Councillor McQueen.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Burrows. Just one question, Gord. You said Saturday is the other early time to vote. Same time, 1 to 4. Is that correct?
Alicia, correct me if I'm wrong. That's correct.
Okay, thanks so much.
Sorry, advance polls on the Wednesday.
Oh.
I'm sorry. But they are 2 different times. We wanted to be able to capture everyone's schedules. Advance polls on Wednesday, October 13th are from 3 p.m. till 7 p.m. And Saturday, October 16th, they are from noon till 4 p.m. And advance poll locations are the White Court Administration Office as well as the Fort Assiniboine office.
I have one other question on elections. So in the areas where, because there are a couple things that are on the ballot, like the daytime savings and the, what was the other? Oh, the transfer payments, from what I understand, the province has put those on. In the areas where we have acclaimed councillors, are there polling stations open that people can put their opinion in on those things?
Absolutely, Mayor Burrows. We are running the polling stations as per hours required through the Elections Authority Act. The Anselmo and Blue Ridge polling stations will be open and fully staffed from 10 a.m. till 8 p.m. Counting of the ballots will happen at the White Court office after polls close.
Perfect, thank you. If there's nothing further to Mr. Frank, then I will accept a motion to accept the CAO report as information. Councillor McQueen.
Thanks, Mayor Burrows. I'll make a motion to accept the CEO's report as information.
Thank you, Councillor McQueen. Any discussion on that? Don't see any, so Councillor Klein.
In favor.
Councillor McQueen.
In favor.
Councillor Prestige.
In favor.
Councillor Cush.
In favor.
Councillor Govenlock.
In favor.
And I vote in favor. So with that, we are at, oh, got the wrong paper here. That concludes that. So we're into item 11. So that's an intermunicipal collaborative update, legal opinion on the use of firearms on Woodlands County, and legal opinion for vaccination verification, Woodlands County Council chambers. Would anyone like to make the motion on the recommendation to move into closed session? Nobody? Councillor McQueen.
Mayor Burrows, I'll make a motion that we move into closed session.
Thank you, Councillor Prestige. Motion to move into closed session on the floor by Councillor Prestige. Any discussion? I'll call the question. Councillor Klein.
Favor.
Councillor McQueen.
In favor?
Councillor Prestige.
In favor?
Councillor Cush.
In favor?
Councillor Govenlock.
In favor?
And I'm in favor. So I'm going to